2, 3, 4.
Hi everyone, this is Jewish Talk coming to you from NASA Community College on 90.3 WHPC, also streaming on the iHeart and the iTunes app. This program is later archived on Spreaker.com. So hi there, my name is Rabbi Perl. I guess you didn't know that. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This all depends on when you are listening. Let me share with you. The Torah, the Bible, lists the different animals, the fish and the birds, and gives us signs to tell us which of these many species of creatures we may and may not eat. As far as four-legged animals are concerned, the Torah gives us a very simple sign. Those animals that chew their cud and have split hooves, you may eat. Those that only have one or neither of these signs are forbidden to eat. God created thousands of kinds of animals, and in a small minority of them, God created these two signs. God chose these two specific signs to make the differentiation, to make the differences between kosher and non-kosher animals. Now, it cannot be just a coincidence, my friends. There has to be a specific reason why these signs were chosen, not others. For example, God could have made all kosher animals with a red stripe around their necks, or any other infinite number of possible signs to make those animals look different from the non-kosher animals. Why specifically is our question that these two signs, chewing the cud and having split hooves, determines them being kosher? You might argue that these signs are not significant in themselves. They're only indications of the kashrus of these animals, not causes of their being kosher, and therefore not directly related to the fact that they are kosher. Nevertheless, nothing is by coincidence. Anything which you witness should teach us a lesson in serving God. Therefore, allow me to explain, what can we learn from the chewing the cud and having split hooves? People, in a sense, are also animals. Who would have thought? There are certain things that we have in common with animals. Certain ways of behavior, certain needs, certain drives. Within us, we have an animal soul. We cannot go through life without eating, drinking, sleeping, and doing all the things animals do. Nevertheless, there are ways that we can elevate our lives so we can become, for no better word, a kosher animal. In other words, everyone on earth has to live a more or less physical life as a soul within a physical body. But however, there are kosher and no kosher ways of living. So what are the motivations of an animal? Well, let's be honest. An animal is driven by a desire for food, to reproduce, to look after itself. An animal is motivated by instincts rather than by reasoned intellect or principles. These things are part of life, and we have to live with our life partially on the physical plane and partially on the spiritual plane. So God has given us two signs which differentiate between kosher animals and non-kosher animals. These signs are guides by which we can try to keep our lives on a level that will make us kosher and even holy. So let's dive right into it. All kosher animals, or I should say non-kosher animals, have either a round foot where there is no division at all, like a horse, or toes which more than two divisions, like the paws of dogs and cats. Kosher animals, by contrast, have split hooves with two sides to the hoof and a gap between them. What does it mean in our lives? A person is born with a certain inborn natural tendencies which are not the result of education or environment. We can see this even in the smallest infants and young people. Some people are naturally gentle. Others are naturally aggressive. Some people gravitate towards one kind of activity, while others gravitate towards a completely different kind of activity. If a person spends his life totally devoted to the things that come naturally to him, this is not called serving God. It is serving oneself. In other words, suppose that by nature you find a certain way of appealing, comfortable and easy for you, and you never deviate from it your whole life. So you remain with what is comfortable and easy. Then you've never risen above what is natural. You have made no effort to transcend your natural self. In the 60s and the 70s, there were people and even entire movements that set themselves the goal of being natural, of living like animals. That is pure, they thought. That is holiness. If you can just walk around with a loincloth, eat raw food, drink water out of your hand, and live by your animal passions and instincts, then you've achieved perfection. Well, guess what, dear friends? Judaism, however, teaches that the key to life is to be able to transcend your natural animal self. An animal can never rise above its nature. A cow bleibt a cow. For example, this cow can never become more than a cow. For its entire life, a cow is motivated by things that motivate cows. It could never do more than that, and it could never change itself to become more than a cow. When did you last see a cow sitting down and looking up at the sky, wondering why God created it? Tigers are different from cows. The tiger lives in a life totally motivated by those tendencies that motivate tigers, and it can never become a cow. A tiger will never act like a cow, nor will a cow act like a tiger. Each spends its life doing the things that come naturally to that species. So how do each of us become a kosher animal? Well, to put it bluntly, by rising above one's innate nature, by transcending the way we were born. Sometimes you have to do things which do not come naturally to us, and even things that might be opposite of our nature, because God said so. This a cow cannot do, nor can a tiger. This is what is symbolized by the split hooves. They indicate that there are two paths, the left path and the right path. There are times in a person's life when God says you have to exhibit strength. A person may say, but I'm not that kind of person. I'm a gentle soul. To exert force is against my nature, against my character. However, one ought to say, I know it's against my character, and it's hard for me to say or do things like this, but God told me to do this. So I have to overpower my natural tendency to go to the right, which is kindness, and go to the left. By doing this, one rises above one's natural tendencies, and one becomes, quote unquote, a kosher animal. In other words, the prerequisite for being kosher is the ability to go in both directions, to the right and to the left. To do what is comfortable for you and ignore what is difficult for you is not going to change you at all. For example, our forefather, Abraham, was the epitome of love and kindness. As the verse says, kindness to Abraham. In other words, but in order to prove that to the world that Abraham's kindness was not simply the result of his natural tendencies, but was his way of serving God, guess what? He was put through a real test where he was required to display the utmost degree of harshness. How was that? I'm sure you recognize. He was commanded by God to slaughter his beloved son Isaac, for whom he had waited for so many years. When he showed his willingness to carry out God's command, even though at the last minute the decree was annulled, the Torah states that now it is known that Abraham fears God. Since he was able to transcend his natural tendency towards love and kindness, he proved that what motivated him was not his natural characteristics, but a love for God. When a person loves God, he can transcend his nature and do the opposite of what comes easily to him. Therefore, the split hooves teach us the necessity of going in whichever direction God asks, whether it is easy or not. So that explains that. I guess on a humorous side, a person has to be able to watch CNN and Fox News. Just joking, dear friends. But you get my point. That's the idea of split hooves. Two directions on one foot. He can go this way, that way. He's transcending what may come easy to us. Now, what about the chewing of the cud? What does that mean? What does that recognize? What is that? Why is this a sign? What does it teach us? During a person's life, he must make decisions that are difficult, because life is truly complex, with many, many factors that can overshadow our decisions. For example, at times we have to make decisions that does not come easily to us. When we face such a situation, we often base the decision on what is most comfortable, or what will make the fewest waves in our lifestyle. However, this is not necessarily always the correct decision. Let's say the issue is about moving, about whether we should leave our neighborhood. This is a situation that happens to many people. You live in a certain neighborhood where you have a nice house, you have friends, you're all settled, everything is fine and dandy and comfortable. But you're beginning to realize that there are certain factors in this environment that are not good for your family or for yourself. Just the thought of uprooting and changing your whole lifestyle, changing your apartment and your job is so difficult that often we might say, it's not so bad. I'll just stay here. It could be, however, that the right decision is to do the difficult thing. So let's apply it to our conversation. To be a kosher animal, one should think things over with other people. Thinks things over a few times. A kosher animal doesn't just gulp the food down. It chews it over and over and over again. When one makes a major decision in his or her life, this requires chewing the cud, thinking about it over and over from every angle. Do not just make a decision based on what feels good or what is comfortable and easy. Talk it over with an objective person, preferably one who has an experience in life. That person may see your life in a very different light from the way you see it. He or she may help you make that difficult decision by presenting options and situations in a way that will help you see what is right to do, though it may be difficult for you to do. So just as kosher animals chew their cud over and over, we too must think about things over and over. We must make sure that we've looked at the matter from all angles and have chewed it well before we make a decision. This way, we will decide correctly, based on the right motivations and the right reasons, and not just on the whim of the moment. The attitude of, what's the difference? It's all good. Well, everything happens by divine providence is an incorrect attitude. God has given us the ability to make free choices, which are not predetermined. Our choice is essentially free. Therefore, we have to be very careful when we're about to make a decision that might change the course of our life or the lives of our members of our family. Even a minor decision can greatly affect the rest of our life. Think it over. Talk it over. Think it over again. And then decide with the knowledge that you have you checked it out from all angles, that you are not making the decision rashly. So, how many college students can fit into a tiny car or a phone booth? How many absolute essentials can a woman place in her evening bag? How many items can a man stuff into his suit pocket and still have a jacket, laid properly? How many grapes can a youngster pack into his mouth before they all tumble out? Sand patted down by a child in a pail and patted down it again to make room for more. A suitcase so full that you have to sit on it to close it. Just one more bite. We promise ourselves as we dig once again into the double chocolate fudge brownies that we've already stuffed to the gills. So people seem to be obsessed with cramming as many things as possible into a minimum amount of space. From closet organizers to USBs, we want to make full use of space, both tangible and, of course, cyber. There are times in the calendar when we are given a specific amount of spiritual space and encouraged to fill it up. I'm sharing, my friends, that this coming Thursday and Friday begins the month of Elul. Is just one of those times. This Elul is the roundup time for the previous year. Is the inventory season, a year-end accounting time, and the moment when each of us writes down or reads for ourselves our own State of the Union address. In addition to Elul being a once-over concerning in the past, it is a chance, of course, not only look at the past, but to focus on the future. In this month, the last month before Rosh Hashanah, we have an opportunity to plan ahead, armed with the wisdom gained from experience. Kind of a month that we chew things over. The next 30 days gives us a chance to concentrate on how we will do things differently in the coming year. But there's a third aspect to Elul as well. While we're remembering the past and considering the future, we're also living in the present. And in this present, we are invited to use the entire month of Elul to fill up our spiritual space with as many mitzvahs as possible. We are encouraged to add more mitzvahs to our repertoire to enhance the manner in which we are already performing them. So in the month of Elul, we're urged to specifically to give extra charity, to spend more time connecting to God through prayer, to make sure our mezuzah and tefillin are checked by an expert scribe, to absorb and to observe and to reflect on many aspects of our life, whether it's keeping kosher a little bit more carefully, to bless our friends, the neighbors, our relatives with a good and sweet year. So coming up, using the spiritual space we're given during the month of Elul to its fullest capacity can only be of benefit for the upcoming year. And may Hashem bless us that when we merit the redemption with Mashiach now in a complete way. I want to also share with you two what I call Elul parables. Two little stories to help appreciate ourselves just as we live in the present, fill the present with meaningful things, reflect on the past, look at the potential, the wonderful blessings that this new year begins. And I want to share this little story that I heard in memory of Rabbi Steinsaltz, this world genius who passed away just a week and a half ago approximately. And he was walking with one of his students in Central Park in February of 2017, I believe. And they went past this huge American oak tree. And he said to his student, there are three kinds of people as he looked at the tree. There's some people look at a tree, a huge, beautiful tree, and say, oh, what a great tree, and move on. There's a second kind of person who looks at this tree, sees how beautiful it is, and says, wow, look at the wonders of God. Beautiful, beautiful tree with all of its branches, all of its spread of protection and shadow. But there's a third kind of person. Looks at this tree, says how beautiful it is, how it reflects such godliness in this world, and steps over to the tree and plucks a leaf and says, I would like to have such a tree in my backyard, garden. And goes over, as I said, plucks the leaf. And this is what Rabbi Steinsaltz did. He plucked a leaf from the tree and put it into his pocket. And he said, I am the third kind of person. When I see something beautiful in the world, I want to be part of it. I want to bring it into myself. I want to inspire myself. And so too, as we can learn from this amazing story, and we look around the world and we see things happening, let's pluck something. Let's see the hand of God in so many things of our life, to be part of ourselves, not just to be a bystander, a watcher of society, just standing by and letting life just go on, but really to allow what we see and learn to impact ourselves, to become part of our garden, the garden that we're creating. So these are two little stories that would help us. It's about a tiny fix and a little snip. A man was called to the beach to paint a boat. He brought his paint and brushes and began to paint the boat a bright new red, as he was hired to do. As he was painting the boat, he noticed that the paint was seeping through the bottom of the boat. He realized that the boat had a leak. So what did he do? He decided to mend it. When the painting was done, he collected his money for the job and went away. No, schön, fertig. The following day, the owner of the boat came to the painter and presented him with a large check. The painter said, you've already paid me for the painting. What's happens with this big check? But this is not for the paint job. The man said, it's for mending the leak in the boat. That was a small thing that I even did not want to charge you, the guy said. Surely you're not paying me this huge amount for such a small thing? My dear friends, you do not understand. Let me tell you what happened. When I asked you to paint the boat, I had forgotten to mention to you about the leak. When the boat was nice and dry, my children took the boat and went fishing. When I found out they had gone out in the boat, I was frantic, for I remembered that the boat has a leak. Oi, gewalt! Imagine my relief and happiness when I saw them coming back safe and sound. I examined the boat and saw that you had repaired the leak. Now you see what you've done? You've saved the lives of my children. I haven't enough money to repay you for your little good deed. That's story number one. Story number two. A wealthy merchant bought a wonderful candelabra for his home. It was a masterpiece, made of pure crystal, studded with precious stones. It cost a real fortune. Because of the candelabra's massive size, the ceiling in the merchant's dining room couldn't support its weight. In order to hang this beautiful candelabra, a hole was bored into the ceiling, through which a rope was run and fastened to a beam in the attic. Can you imagine? Everybody who came to the house admired the wonderful candelabra, and the merchant and his family were very proud of it. One day, a poor boy comes begging for old clothes. He was told to go up to the attic, where their old clothes were stored, and to help himself to some. He went up to the attic, collected a bundle of clothes. After packing them into his bag, he searched for a piece of string with which to tie it. He saw a rope wound around a nail and decided to help himself to a piece. So he took out his pocket knife and cut the rope. Crash! Oi gewalt! Oi gewalt! There was a terrific smash, and the next moment, the whole family rushed to the attic crying, "You idiot! Look what you've done! You've ruined us." The poor boy could not understand what's all the excitement about. He said, "What do you mean, ruined you? All I did was to take a small piece of rope. Surely this didn't ruin you?" "You poor fish," replied the merchant. "Yes, all you did was to take a piece of rope. But by doing that, it so happened that my precious candelabra hung by it. Now you have broken it beyond repair." I share these two stories with you, my friends, as we prepare ourselves for this coming week. Thursday and Friday, we usher in the new month of Elul. And it's a powerful month. A month where we're told in this metaphor, in this story, like the king leaves the palace and comes into the field. When the king is living in his palace, you need an appointment. You have to be dressed a certain way, and you have to know the language. You have to have an appointment. Difficult to get to see the king when he's in the palace. But if the king takes a ride through the countryside, all the farmers, all the people can come out and greet the king. And the king is usually in a much more relaxed mood. And whatever you can ask of him, he gives us with a smiling face, with a welcoming face. And so too, the month of Elul, as explained by the first Chabad Rebbe, the king is in the field. Prior to Rosh Hashanah, which is a more serious time and more very, 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 very thoughtful time, an awesome time, we have this happy month. Why is it called happy? Because the king is out in the field. The Almighty can be felt in the world around us, and we can just easily go over to him and ask him for whatever we want. That's the blessing of this month of Elul. And these two stories really have two morals. The one who made a little, he just took a little piece of string, and look what happened to it. And the other person did a little healing up or stopping up of this little hole, what he had accomplished. For us to appreciate every single thing that we do is nothing too small, in a positive sense, and is really, we have to be very considered and, thoughtful about a small little thing that may not be the right thing to do, of what it could cause, the ultimate cause. And so as we prepare for the new year, it is the custom, dear friends, don't wait for the email or the New Year's card. Let's go out of our way to wish other people a good and sweet new year. Not just a good year, a happy, healthy new year, but a good and sweet year. Why do we use the word sweet? Because you see, sweet, it really reflects that many aspects, if you look at our world today, are not so sweet. Surely we trust in Hashem that no bad comes from God. But we're asking God, please, we know everything that you bring us is good. Let us experience it in a sweet way, in an open way, in a revealed way. And so too, that's the bracha we give each other. When I say to dear friends, I appreciate all our radio listeners, those who come to us every week and spend this half hour together. I want to wish you and your family very happy, healthy, and sweet, good year. Not just everything is good, but everything should come to us in a good year, in a good, sweet way, in a positive manner, in an open manner, without any challenges. Look at the world today, all the different words, unprecedented, crazy times. We're all wearing masks. Dear friends, let's look forward to a year when we can unmask all these concealments and recognize the goodness and see and experience it in ourselves and our family and our community in the best of manners, so that this year will truly be a year filled with goodness and kindness in the most revealing and open manner. So, my friends, a lot to talk about, how to determine what is kosher in animals and how we can apply it to our own lesson, our own life as well, of looking at things in different perspectives, from the right to the left, like the split hoof, and the idea of chewing the cud, to think things over. Then we elevate ourselves, we transcend what may come to us easily, or is just part of our education, the environment has influenced us to think a certain way, or maybe even our natural tendency is to be this way or that way. The kosher animal steps in, so to speak, and reminds us a kosher animal, a positive way of looking at the world, is always consider split hooves. To the right, to the left, overcome natural tendencies and let us transcend ourselves, and ultimately also to think things over in the most beautiful and meaningful way. And so, my friends, as we go through life, to appreciate that, again, in the memory of Rabbi Steinsaltz, he once said in his class, one of his teaching moments, we should all imagine ourselves sitting on a star and sending out messages to all the different planets. And all you want is for some response. And he used that as an example because he had a very funny way of sometimes expressing ideas. We're all sitting on a star, and we're sitting on this planet, and there are messages, texts trying to get through to us, and we have to respond. We all have it within ourselves to respond and not allow any masks, to curtail and to limit the ability to hear those messages. So Rabbi Steinsaltz saw that message when he saw this big tree in Manhattan. He plucked that leaf, put it into his pocket. He said, I want to have that part of my life. So too, when we live in a year with all the difficulties, we've seen the greatness of people have stepped forward to be kind, to be sharing, to be outgoing, to help people. The essential work is so much good. Let's see that. Let that be what we look at and to focus on. And may Hashem bless each and every one of us with a very happy, healthy, good, and sweet new year. Have a wonderful day, my friends. 1, 2, 3, 4.